I was born amidst noise, pots banging, the radio blaring, siblings crying, doors opening and closing all day long. It was a full house, but I felt alone. Being the oldest, I became a surrogate mother too soon. I learned to cook rice on a stool, to hang laundry that barely reached the clothesline, to hide my tears in my pillow so no one would ask. My father was always tired, my mother was always running, and I always strong, or pretending to be. When I said I wanted to have my own home, it wasn't luxury, it was silence. I fantasized about a little corner where no one would shout my name every 5 minutes. At school, I looked at the girls who had time to be girls and thought, one day I'll leave here, I'll breathe without asking permission. I didn't know where or how, but I went. I grew up like this, serving, studying, swallowing the unspoken. At church, I asked God for a simple life, a transparent love, a safe lap. I didn't want any more noise. I wanted peace. And when Kaio appeared with that easy smile and a patience that seemed infinite, my heart, which only knew how to carry weight, finally wanted to rest. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe to the LZ Mutome's channel. We're towards 1,000 subscribers, and your click helps this story reach those who need to hear that they're not alone. Kaio looked at me in a way I hadn't recognized. Undivided attention, a conversation that didn't linger, hands that held mine, as if that gesture were a promise. He brought me flowers from his grandmother's backyard, noted my lunch schedule, learned my favorite coffee. I, who had learned to ask for little, began to believe that love could also be cared for, that we married without luxury, but with double faith. We rented a small house, painted the walls on Saturday, made the bed on Sunday, and inaugurated life with pasta and laughter. In the first week, he fixed the faucet, glued the baseboard, and said, "Here, you can rest." I took a deep breath, like someone arriving from the desert and finding water. I thought my prayer had been answered, but the small details started to add up. Kaio was picky about the clothes I wore to go out, about the friend who called me, about my mother who was too opinionated. I called it zeal. He called it care. The let me handle it turned into a changed password, a joint account I couldn't see, people I couldn't see anymore. I confused control with affection. And that's how we lose ourselves without realizing it. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the Elis e Muito Mais channel, comment below, and share. We're heading towards 1,000 subscribers, and your participation strengthens this space. His first disappearance was on a Friday. He said he was going to finish a job, and he returned in the early hours of the morning, smelling of gasoline and excuses. I served coffee, asked little, and accepted a lot. Then came the long silences and the thrown questions. Why are you taking so long at work? How long were you at your mom's house? Who sent you that emoji? I started justifying myself to the very air I breathed. He took my phone just to look at a picture, and never gave me the password back. I laughed, saying it was silly of me, that couples don't need that. The following month, I was already asking for permission to buy a blouse on sale. It's tight, he said. I didn't see the bill, trust me. And I did. I learned not to call my friends back. They're boring, he swore. Coworkers. I don't like you being so close to people. Church. There are so many fake people. Suddenly, I was an island, and he was my countenance. The arguments changed tone. They weren't yelling. They were nudges that made me doubt myself. Gaslighting. I only learned the word later. You misunderstood. I didn't say that. You always exaggerate. I went to sleep feeling guilty and woke up apologizing. Loneliness now lived inside my house. If you know someone living under an invisible siege, leave a comment and subscribe to the LZ Mutome's channel. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers, and each subscription helps this content reach more women. It wasn't all at once. It happened in small ways. The day he threw my resume away saying you don't need to work. The day he called me crazy for wanting to see my friends. The day he threatened to take the car if I left without warning. I became smaller, doubled over, silenced, until my sister said, "Come sleep here tonight," and I did. I came back with different eyes. At home, nothing had changed, but I had. I went to a psychologist at a health center. I spoke softly, as if telling a secret. She gave me a piece of paper with 2 names on it, Maria da Penhala. Seek out the support network. I kept it in my pocket and in my heart. I returned, determined to talk. Kyo listened to me silently, then slammed his hand on the table and smiled toothlessly. You're not going anywhere." The following days were filled with gentle terror. He followed me with his eyes, timed my steps, called from an unknown number when I was at the bakery. He showed up at my work to see if everything was okay. The boss whispered, "Is everything really okay?" I said yes. That night, he locked the door from the inside, for our safety. As if the danger were the street, he went back to sleep hugging my shoulder, heavy, like a padlock. If you believe that information saves, subscribe to the Alice e Muito Mais channel, activate the bell, and share. Towards 1,000 subscribers, let's grow this support network. It was raining heavily and the lights flickered. We argued over something minor, a plate in the drainer, a note left on the gate. He scowled and left. He returned late, his gait unsteady and his eyes too bright. He locked the door, hid the key, and turned off the Wi-Fi. "Now, you're going to listen to me." I retreated into the narrow hallway that led to the stairs. He came, after me, heavy, with anger in his breath. The first push threw me against the wall. It wasn't hard enough to knock me down, but enough for me to understand. I tried to get past him, asked him to calm down, talked about tomorrow, said we'll talk, like someone throwing a life buoy to themselves. He cornered me on the edge of the first step. "If you're not mine, you're not going to be anyone's." The phrase I thought only existed in news reports was now ringing in my ear. I saw the stairs. I saw the rain. I saw my mother crying alone if I didn't come back. The body makes choices before the mind. I ducked and slid under his arm, scratching my knee and hope. I ran to the bedroom, jammed the chair against the doorknob, and called a friend from the old cell phone I kept hidden. She called the police. I was shaking all over, without sound. On the other side of the door, he knocked, not hard, but steadily, repeating, "Open up, open up." The sirens arrived before the door gave way. At the police station, I learned new words for old things: attempted femicide, protective order, removal from home. I left with paper in hand and a void in my chest. But I got out alive. If this part gave you chills, subscribe to the LZ Muito Mais channel. Your subscription is a gesture of support for the stories that need to be heard. We're heading towards 1,000 subscribers. I moved with 2 suitcases, a comforter, and a potted fern. A house borrowed from a friend, a sofa that turned into a bed, a pillow. I learned to call home. I went to the CAPS National Center for Social Assistance, joined a therapy line, and received a hot coffee from a social worker who said, "You're not crazy, you're hurt." That phrase gave me back my skin. Work was hard. I jumped at the slightest noise. I started as an assistant in a clothing factory, 3 afternoons a week. Then I took on overtime, learned a new skill, and started saving 50 reais in an envelope. My psychologist taught me to map triggers, write a journal, and name what hurt. I, who had always been practical, gradually discovered a silent strength, the ability to exist unapologetically, but persecution has a lifespan. Kyle waited for me on the corner twice, just to talk, he'd say, leaning against the car. I'd call 911 with the restraining order form in hand, and he'd leave before the police car arrived. A message arrived in the early hours of the morning. "Do you miss me?" I blocked him. He created another number. One day I found a flower on the doorstep. The note only had my name. "Fear is an old acquaintance. Learn to take off your shoes before entering. If you're with someone who controls, threatens, or stalks you, seek help and subscribe to the channel LZ Muito Mais to continue following this story and others that can guide you towards 1,000 subscribers. Come with us. I got tired of being reactive. I started recording everything. Screenshots, times, license plates. I filed a supplementary report, took it to the public defender's office, and returned to the courthouse. Friends became a network. Neighbors became a beacon, and it was while gathering paperwork that I discovered the secret I hadn't known. Keo had taken out a loan in my name months before, forging my signature at a store in the neighboring town. The invoice had an old address, but the CPF was mine. I filed the complaint, filed it, and cried with rage and relief. The lawyer requested an asset freeze. The judge granted a precautionary measure that would take me forever to understand. And suddenly the untouchable was left without a car for a few days. He showed up furious at the door of work. I didn't leave. The manager called the police. On the 3rd violation of the measure, pretrial detention came like rain on a hot afternoon, loud and liberating. I trembled when I heard. I trembled not with fear, but with a new kind of courage. With the peace that came with me, I wrote a text telling my story, no names, no revenge, just the truth. I posted it online. It went viral without me asking. An NGO con.